This is a Game of Thrones Season 8 prediction video based on speculation, imagination, and clues found in both book and show stories. This may contain spoilers for those who are not up to date with Seasons 1 through 7 and all current books released. Hi, I'm Raylene, and welcome to Khaleesi Clues. This video is the second out of a series of Game of Thrones Season 8 prediction videos that I will be making for my channel. This video basically picks up where my last video left off, titled Tyrion's Secret Pact with Cersei. If you haven't watched that video yet, you may want to watch it first and come back to this one later. Originally, this video was scheduled to be covering our favorite twins, Jaime and Cersei, but I had to make some changes. While making this video, I had another thought or a prediction or theory come to mind that I thought was too good to not include with the current video. So I decided to break this one into two separate videos. Otherwise, it might have made the video a little bit too long, and in all reality, I believe they deserve their own titles. So with all that said, I hope you enjoy my predictions, and on to the video. I'm going to start off by reviewing a couple of lines of dialogue from a conversation between Dany and Tyrion from last season. I think it is more foreshadowing for my last prediction video. They are on Dragonstone, in front of a fire, talking and preparing for the Dragon Pit meeting. Dany asks Tyrion, "Do you know what I like about you?" Tyrion replies, "I honestly don't." Dany says, "You're not a hero." Tyrion informs her, "Oh, I've been heroic on occasions. I once charged the Mudgate at King's Landing." Dany interrupts, "Heroes do stupid things, and they die." Now don't freak out quite yet. Maybe I should have told you to sit down before that last line, but it's too late now. Let me get this out of the way first. I do not believe that her statement is foreshadowing Tyrion's death. At least, I don't think that at this point. But you just never know with this story. Seriously, no one is really safe in this Game of Thrones. I think it definitely does foreshadow what I believe he promised Cersei with the most heroic intentions in mind, which was covered in my last video. So now, I'm going to move forward and reveal what I believe this decision of his will result in for some of the other characters. Last season, we watched Cersei approach Jaime as he was planning the expedition north for the Queen and the Lannister forces. He was instructing the men and the forces in King's Landing to gather their supplies needed within 3 days' time and march north on the King's Road to Winterfell. He said the remaining forces in the Westerlands would travel east on the River Road, meeting at Lord Harroway's town, and then continue to go north on the King's Road. It all sounded like a great plan until Mad Queen Cersei had to spoil it all by informing Jaime of just how stupid he was for actually believing that she had any plans of honoring her word from the Dragon Pit meeting, that she had absolutely no intentions on leaving the safety of King's Landing. Jaime tried to argue with her by saying, "I pledged to ride north. I intend to honor that pledge." It was no use. Jaime should have taken Bronn's advice and jumped right back into that river, because Bronn was right. You can't talk any sense into Cersei. It ended later with Jaime placing a glove on to cover his gold hand, leaving Cersei and King's Landing behind, honor-bound and alone on horseback. So now we have to wonder, will Jaime go straight to Winterfell, or does he have a different plan in mind? Whatever road he chooses to travel, I fear will be a dangerous one. Like we all heard Cersei warn him, "No one walks away from me." One thing I think we can fully expect is that Jaime will be determined to uphold his word to Jon and Dany. I do not think he will want to show up at the doors of Winterfell empty-handed with no troop support for the war to come. Let's take a step back into Season 6 for Jaime. That is the season where we saw Jaime and Bronn travel to Riverrun to take back control of the castle that the Freys had lost to the Blackfish. Jaime was successful in ending the conflict with very little bloodshed by using Edmure Tully in a strategic way. It seems like in every scene, Jaime was being confronted by someone in regards to his honor or his word. This is something that weighs on his mind terribly. A perfect example of this is Jaime's reaction to the Blackfish during their parley outside of the gates of Riverrun. The Blackfish, after refusing terms of surrender, informs Jaime of just how disappointing he finds the Kingslayer to be, turns his back to him, and walks away, leaving Jaime a bit shocked and frustrated, but seemingly determined to prove his worth. Then, later in the episode, we see the disappointed look on Jaime's face when he learns that the Blackfish has died honorably while fighting for his family home. There is a couple of things we need to keep in mind. First off, I would expect that Cersei will be sending ravens to all of her troops to inform them that Jaime is no longer Lord Commander of the Royal or Lannister forces, that he is indeed a traitor to the throne and is to be arrested and brought back to King's Landing for justice. Jaime needs to get to Riverrun before the ravens do. One thing that will be on his side is the fact that we saw the first snowflake fall on Jaime's hand just as he was riding away. Like Littlefinger had expressed to Sansa, ravens have a hard time flying in these storms. As we all know, the storm is coming. The other thing we need to keep in mind is the fact that I'm not quite sure Jaime will have very much luck persuading any of the Tully army to put their trust in him and ride north. Jaime is a Lannister. His family is responsible for the Red Wedding, the slaughter of the Tully and Stark families, the same family that has helped the Freys take over Riverrun and has their lord in captivity. At least as far as we know at this point, Edmure is still locked in the Freys' dungeon. The last conversation Jaime had with Edmure was when he threatened the life of Edmure's child, claiming that he would have the baby launched into Riverrun with a catapult if Edmure did not do as Jaime instructed and turn the castle back over to the Freys. The look of defeat on Edmure's face when he had to face his uncle, the Blackfish, as he gave the order to open the gates to the Lannister forces was heartbreaking. We don't even know for sure if Edmure truly does have a son. Jaime could have been lying to Edmure. If Edmure really does have a son, I would think that the Lannisters would have access to the child and used as leverage to keep the Tullys loyal to the throne. If they go against the crown, the child's safety could be in danger. With all of that said, and with so little hours left for the show, Dan and Dave may decide to avoid the Tully storyline and just stick with Jaime rallying the remaining Lannister forces in the Westerlands, leading them north on to Winterfell, although that would be a bit drab and unfulfilling, not to mention that the King's Road is going to be a bit busy with all of these different armies heading north. What I would absolutely love to see is the return of the Blackfish. I know the Blackfish is supposedly dead, but there is still hope. The death was never seen on the screen, and this is the last season, the last chance we get for 100% closure for this character. One last chance for Jaime to redeem himself in the Blackfish's eyes. Jaime was disappointed when he could not meet with the Blackfish after the recapture of Riverrun. Jaime wanted to be able to face the Blackfish, to show him how he had outsmarted the legendary warrior, how Jaime had indeed reclaimed Riverrun and did it with hardly any bloodshed. Unfortunately, the untimely death of the Blackfish prevented that from happening. But in the end, did Jaime really and truly outsmart the Blackfish? Or did the Blackfish outsmart them all? Like Bronn said to Jaime, "My money is on the old guy." I always think back to one of my favorite scenes of the Blackfish telling Jaime, "As long as I'm standing, the war is not over." The Tully words are family, duty, honor. Family being first and foremost. The Blackfish may be hard on Edmure. He may think Edmure is a fool, but as he told Catelyn, Edmure is his nephew, and he loves him. The Blackfish seen the broken, beaten Edmure. He knew Edmure was going to turn the castle over and would be forced to give the orders to either have him arrested or even killed. The Blackfish would also be aware that once the castle was turned back over to the Freys, that Edmure would be thrown back into the prison cells. Let's not forget old Walder Frey commenting to Jaime about the Blackfish, a legendary warrior, killed by some foot soldiers. Really? Is that how it's going to end for him? He survived the Red Wedding, only to have a bit part in the siege of Riverrun, and then supposedly die off-screen? I think it would be amazing to see the Blackfish run into Jaime on the way to Riverrun. Let them have some sort of confrontation, but then come together to bring the Lannister and Tully forces north to Winterfell. And for the love of God, maybe they, together, can free poor Edmure. I can't believe Arya left his ass behind. Or maybe I should say the story writers left him behind. I'm just teasing on that last part. I'm a book and show lover. I understand that there is only so many hours available to tell this story, and so some things are cut short or cut out. I compare it to eating a cinnamon roll. You eat all the outside layers and you get down to the best part, the center, only to have it fall on the floor. You may curse or scream, grumble, or maybe even cry about it. It's not to say that you didn't enjoy eating the majority of that cinnamon roll. You just wanted the whole thing, every last bite and crumb. That's how it is for this story and us fans. We want the show to have it all, every last detail. One thing I really hope is that we don't have any loose ends by the end of this amazing story and show, that it feels complete and fulfilling. I'm sure the show writers will do their absolute best. Even with so little hours left for the show, I definitely still think there is a possibility that the Blackfish may very well return this final season. There was something I noticed upon a recent rewatch of the second Siege of Riverrun episode. When Edmure walked through the gates of Riverrun, he looked directly at the Blackfish and did not say a word. The Blackfish, upon locking eyes with Edmure and seeing his nephew so completely distraught and beaten, turned and walked away. Edmure then walked up the stairs to give the orders to his men to lower the gate. After the gate was fully down and the Lannister army began funneling in, it was then that Edmure also gave the orders to find the Blackfish, put him in irons, and hand him over to the Freys. Why didn't Edmure just point at the Blackfish while he was surrounded by his men and give the orders when he was standing right in front of him? My thoughts? I think he was giving him the head start and the chance to get away. As we had heard his uncle explain to the commander of the Tully forces, "You're not obeying Edmure's commands. You're obeying the Kingslayer's commands. Your lord is giving an order with a knife against his throat. That is not a valid order." The Blackfish knows that Edmure could have given the order right then to capture the Blackfish. He is also aware that his nephew has no choice in this matter other than to give those orders. The Blackfish is also very well aware that his nephew is helping him escape that very fate by ignoring his uncle and waiting to give those orders. I believe the Blackfish lives to see another day. He may have been outmoved by Jaime, but he was not outsmarted. He is a Tully, and he is not giving up on his nephew either. As for the book reader fans out there, we have to remember that the Blackfish is still alive and survived the second siege of Riverrun. He escaped the Frey and Lannister forces with the help of Edmure and Nymeria with her wolf pack. So if it is not possible to portray the complete storyline in the show, maybe the opportunity will arise in the books. I do not believe that there has been any mention of the return of either actors for Season 8. Like I said, they may avoid the whole Tully storyline and just stick with Jaime gathering the remaining forces in Westerlands. But I'll still cross my fingers and hope to see at least some representation of the Tully family in Season 8. One last thing I would like to say about Jaime's storyline is if he was to travel a straight beeline to Winterfell, he would definitely be able to inform Jon, Dany, Brienne, or Tyrion of Cersei's betrayal. That would give Winterfell the heads up on some of the events to come. And that is exactly why I believe that he is heading to the Westerlands. He's not going to make it to Winterfell anytime soon, or maybe I should say at least not in time to save them from the storm that's coming. Like I said before, the roads traveled alone can be very dangerous, as we all seen last season with Arya. She happened to find herself surrounded by an army of lions, and later by Nymeria's very own wolf pack. Maybe our lone lion will find himself surrounded by those very same wolves this season. Wolves hungry for revenge, only to recede back into the woods, sparing his life as the legendary Blackfish appears from those same woods. The Blackfish needs Jaime for another purpose, to demand the release of his nephew Edmure. Jaime may try to inform him that he is no longer in command and that Cersei has surely sent ravens carrying this news to all. The Blackfish will assure Jaime that they are none the wiser, as he and his men have shot down all ravens flying in or out of Riverrun, thwarting any chance for communication with the Queen. That the remaining Lannister and Frey loyalists that are holed up in the castle have been requesting additional support, all in the effort to continue to hold the castle for the crown, held until the Queen decides who will become the next Lord of Riverrun. The Blackfish explains that the remaining Tully forces, with the help of the wolves, have been picking the Lannister forces off one by one, wreaking havoc on all who venture past the safety of the castle walls. The Blackfish could continue this game, but fears that by the looks of his poor nephew, Edmure might not survive such a lengthy strategy. Jaime agrees to help the Blackfish free Edmure on the contingency that they all then ride north to Winterfell. Jaime tries to explain that he is trying to uphold his word to Catelyn and Jon, that he gave his word and had every intention on gathering as many men that he could to help fight for Jon, Sansa, and all of the northern armies, going against the wishes of Cersei. The Blackfish agrees with Jaime. After his nephew Edmure is freed, they will all head north to Winterfell, that the wolves would surely follow to see them safely, that he would be happy to escort the Kingslayer as his prisoner north to Winterfell, that he will, upon arrival, request that word of the Kingslayer's recapture be sent to Queen Cersei, that they would be happy to exchange the Kingslayer for Edmure's wife and son. Jaime, tired of trying to explain, agrees once again. Yes, take me to Winterfell where I may speak to the king in the north once again. The Blackfish smiles and says, Kingslayer, I see you have been on the road too long. I will be delivering you to the Queen in the north, Queen Sansa, the daughter of my sister Catelyn Tully, who you broke your oath to. Queen Sansa, whose mother, brother, sister by law, and unborn nephew or niece were brutally murdered at her uncle's wedding, breaking the most sacred of all guest right law. I'm sure Catelyn's 3 surviving children would love to have a Lannister behind the gates of Winterfell. Jaime, still shocked from the news of Sansa as queen and remembering Catelyn's grief, states, she thought the boys were all dead. The Blackfish informs Jaime, yes, but she was wrong. Bran survived and is now safe at Winterfell. Apparently, the gods have given him a gift for the loss of his legs, the gift of sight. You will stand before my great nephew to be judged of what crimes you may be guilty of in the presence of all men. Tell me, Kingslayer, will you be confessing any sins? Jaime turned silent in reflection. All right. I'll stop. I need to end this video or I'll never get the rest of the predictions out. This story is absolutely amazing, and I can imagine different scenarios happening every day. Let me know if you would like to see the return of the Blackfish or Edmure this final season. My next prediction video will be about our Mad Queen Cersei, picking up from the previous video. All of these predictions are leading up to my crazy Game of Thrones dream that I had. I can't wait to tell you about it. The next video will also contain a bonus prediction that I could see happening later in the season. It was just too good to wait. I just had to include it. Remember, I am a new channel. If you could, please hit the like button or subscribe to follow any of my future videos. Feel free to leave a comment below and talk to me. I hope you have enjoyed my predictions. Thank you and have a great day.